So, defining a genre, possibly one of the most monumental tasks a single piece of media could possibly set out to achieve, is often accomplished by a game with a stroke of simplicity at its core. Super Mario 64, I think, is the title that gets brought up most when it comes to genre-defining classics. Its basic core moveset of running, jumping, and punching, intertwined with such a flexible array of ways to execute those actions, making way for one of the most natural-feeling 3D platformers to have ever hit the market. It's a game held in such high regard, often used to this very day as the example of how to set the groundwork to make a 3D game, a position that doesn't go unearned in the gaming hemisphere. Games like Metal Gear Solid 2 paving the way for modern stealth games, Minecraft's stranglehold on the whole sandbox genre, and the Grand Theft Auto series reigning supreme when it comes to the open world formula. These are all wonderful examples of reinventing fragments of the industry. But it's far more difficult to deny the grave impact Five Nights at Freddy's has had on the gaming scene for years. I think it's beyond fair to admit the sheer importance such a franchise has had for so long now, though it's certainly interesting to have watched the conversation steer so sharply over the past decade, with the series' 2014 revival having played a part, no doubt. In fact, I've witnessed a good amount of the community seem to disregard the game's origins entirely in favor of the more digestible indie direction, so I figured, hey, with the original game's 17th anniversary, October 4th, only 6 months away, it was high time to finally discuss what Five Nights at Freddy's origins were all about, with a little introspective into the PlayStation 2 classic. Okay, who's responsible for this? Oh, Blitz Games. Always nice running into a new face. Blitz Games was one of those studios that would be contracted to do a lot of licensed games back in the 2000s. They're also the same studio behind Glover back when they were known as Interactive Studios, before the change of name in 2000. Wait, the library of titles these guys have accumulated over the years is astonishing. Everything from Frogger 2 to iCarly for the Wii to Coca-Cola Game, Bear, live stream, and hey, Five Nights at Freddy's, right between Fairly Odd Parents' Shadow Showdown and Pac-Man World 3, where it belongs. The history of the development for this thing, not unlike their previous standalone endeavors, Five Nights at Freddy's was a Blitz Games original. You'd think after being commissioned to make so many licensed games, the studio would have lost their touch, but as out of left field as this thing was, it was an incredibly innovative entry for the development team, setting a standard for years to come. You don't innovate without pissing in a couple elevators, though. Yeah, this thing was one of the only games on this system to make use of the freaking PlayStation 2 mouse accessory. Now, this thing was a standard USB connection, meaning any one of these disgusting third-party things would do just the job, but what, people were expected to just have extra mice lying around? If this was 2005, I don't think people had invented the English language yet, let alone own more than two of the same object. Can you tell what year it is? Correct. It really is strange that an exclusive PS2 release was opted over PC or something, given this took advantage of the one peripheral exclusively associated with computers. Whatever, console gaming was prevalent in 2005 and there was nothing anybody could do about it. Like measles, suck it. It took 15 years till we see this thing on a console again, though, with the 2014 indie reimagining of the smash hit arriving on PS4, Xbox One, and Switch in late 2019, with a physical release a couple months later in January 2021, packed in with Five Nights at Freddy's Core Collection. So while the original game was never re-released, there is a modern alternative for our anti-purism sadists. But hey, I'm just glad Blitz had the opportunity to develop something unique for once, and for a game that'd go on to become one of the world's biggest multimedia franchises too, at that. I do totally get it though, you know, for a lot of dev teams back in the day, in order to grab those golden opportunities, you had to swoop up iCarly for the Wii in order to pay the bills. It's a totally understandable practice, and not something Blitz games should be scrutinized for. You grabbed what you were given, but despite that, these dudes have made some baller titles, man. They're clearly a very capable studio. But sometimes making that dough in a time of need is a necessary evil, you know, going through the motions just to scoop up that paycheck and eventually get back to the stuff you're really passionate about. Anyway, more on that in a tad. This video was sponsored by Piepacker. When I'm not busy having an existential crisis over the fact I share a namesake with Oriental pasta, I'm gaming with my friends on Piepacker, the new social gaming platform built for easily accessible online multiplayer retro games for free. And you guys know me, I hate the economy. This thing is playable in your browser, features over 100 classic NES, SNES, Genesis, PlayStation, and Nintendo 64 games with an ever-growing catalog, and allows you to video chat with friends and mess around with a bunch of webcam filters and effects all free to use. For real, this shit isn't genius and a fantastic way to piss about with buddies in a slew of retro classics. It's honestly a fun time, even with just as little as 2 people. You want games? They got 'em, bitch, with SNK titles like Sengoku 3, Arsene Bomber, Worms World Party, Xenocrisis, Sensible Soccer, Rage of the Dragon, Scars, which is exactly what I'll give you if you don't check Piepacker out. My personal favorite in the roster is Micromages, one of the first Kickstarters I ever supported, and a piece of homebrew that does some insane garbo to pack the amount of content it does into a 40 kilobyte cartridge. I think they shove an extra napkin in this thing. Check out your one-stop shop for free licensed retro multiplayer hijinks, boys, girls, and every friends, link in the description. Anyway, one of the most interesting pieces of trivia about this thing I never see brought up too often is the infamous PEGI rating misprint in Power Regions. Five Nights at Freddy's for the PS2 is a 12 and up front and center, but for a alarming amount of time, this psychological horror flick was advertised as appropriate for 3-year-olds. You know, I need something to go with my sippy cup. I'm sold! It is a baffling piece of video game history, but is believed to have contributed to the strangely young fanbase the series initially spawned. Oh hey, Five Nights at Freddy's these days is definitely more of the horror for kids variety, by intention. However, such was not the case when this thing was initially released. There was outrage for this shit, and while I'm not entirely convinced that controversy led to the younger portion of fans today, I mean, who else is the target audience for a game featuring child murder? It's in the name. Well, guess there's not much left to do except deduct that garbage for ourselves. Let's play this sucker. Yeah, now this is what I call a title screen! New game, Help Wanted Night 1, and they poured an original Resident Evil on the PlayStation 2. Good for them. These chunky-ass models plastered over some incredibly compressed pre-rendered backdrops. I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, it's whatever. Do these guys look funky as shit? Sure, but don't they just emit that classic retro gaming charm? You know, let me check with my lawyer before I answer that. It's Five Nights at Freddy's, the same we've all come to know and love if the definitions for both those words were somewhat different. So, okay, same old shtick. Defend your offers from Five Guys, Donnie Darko, McNuggets, and Sonic the Hedgehog and win an adrenaline rush. What else is $4 an hour gonna buy you? Well, adrenaline for one. This original version of Five Nights at Freddy's wouldn't exactly get the heart pumping though. My god, do some of these renders kill it for me. Half the time I can't even tell what's trying to intimidate me. Like, come on. What is this? Thankfully, this thing does attempt to reconcile the jank visuals by introducing an element that'd stay relatively dormant for the series going forward. A sense of psychological horror. Now, this for sure ain't a bullet point on the back of the box, but I did find myself a little psyched out by some of these dudes, Bonnie and Chica especially exhibiting some wacky behavior. The closer Bonnie gets to you, the more he, instantly turns into a Cyclops. I suppose the idea was that you'd open the door and think, well, hey, I'm going fucking nuts. Blitz, where do I invest in your stocks? Chica's essentially the same too, except, oh, this is more disgusting in every way possible. Quick, name something more disgusting than that. Wrong. This shit. Ew, the jump scares are abhorrent. It's FMV City, everybody, and that's setting off my smoke alarm from overheating. For some reason, these dudes had perfectly good, passable enough 3D models, and the jump scares are all pre-rendered, and Jesus do they chug up. Really, any real-time animation featured in this thing suffers the same way, with Foxy... Foxy's ironically the slowest enemy in the entire game due to this. Slowest enemy in the entire game due to this, given his trigger for entering the office occurs once the animation's over, for reasons I will never understand. Now all this begs the question. How was this a smash hit? I don't know, 2005 was an exciting time for gaming, and for something as unique as this to have come out of the woodworks when it did and not turn heads would have been a tad ridiculous. It's Five Nights at Freddy's, a horror game set in a haunted Chuck E. Cheese, whether you thought it was amazing, a train wreck, or just that stupid enough to get a kick out of, you never had a reason not to buy this shit. Look, an entire secret screen dedicated to the company lucky enough to get their hands dirty publishing this garbage. I mean, what else do you do the year after you sell off one of your biggest IPs? Like with a huge chunk of classic retro gaming, sure, it's much easier to appreciate the brand spanking new Garbo, rebuilt from the ground up, rife with quality of life improvements, bug fixes, graphical tweaks. Jesus Christ, the definitive edition of this thing is so much smoother. But it's sometimes easy to forget that we simply wouldn't have that better version if not for the jank of years gone. And despite how admittedly poorly it's aged, Five Nights at Freddy's for the PS2 holds a special place in many a heart, I'm sure. And hey, for what it's worth, who wouldn't trade places with a survival game about evading ghosts eating pellets with a survival game about evading ghost robots in a pizzeria? They're so different! Oh, there's no outro. Shit. I don't remember what to do. I thought this wouldn't happen. I thought it couldn't happen. I thought they were gone. I thought they were security breach is, I just think that's something we'll certainly have to see the outcome of over time. It's not really something that can be rushed. Shit, hey, isn't it like April Fool's today? I'm yelling at nobody. The April Fool's, surprise! I meant the total opposite of everything I just said over the past half hour, sure. Oh, I'm a week late. Wait, then I guess I didn't? What? Well, if discussing security breach at length for 30 minutes isn't an indicator of the amount of women I get, either I was easily mistaken for playing Resident Evil 2, rookie's mistake, or it's time to redefine your dictionaries, bitches, cause what the piss are these?